Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in today. We're going to give it just a minute or two while people drop in. And while we wait, feel free to drop where you're tuning in from in the chat. I know weather's a little bit crazy this week for most of us. We've got Michigan, Bruce is in Michigan, Brett's in Chicago, I'm in the Austin area, and we're all cold for some reason. But feel free to let us know where you're tuning in from. And also just wanted to let you know that your audio and video has been turned off today. It's not because we don't want to hear from you. It's just to give everyone an optimal viewing and audio experience. But definitely feel free to drop any questions or comments that you may have in the chat or in the Q&A section as well. And we will try to get to any questions before the end of today's session. And if you haven't downloaded the 2025 ECE benchmark report yet, I would strongly encourage you to do so. We're going to be talking a lot today about the data from that report. I'm going to put the link here in the chat for everybody. This is a report that LineLeader's launched for the last 11 years. It includes data from our 9,000 plus centers that are on our platform, as well as survey insights from childcare providers just like you. We had roughly 4,500 different providers fill out that survey this year and give information about how they're managing leads, what challenges they're facing in their business, and how they're overcoming those. Everything from lead management to family retention and staff management. So it's a great resource. Definitely encourage you to get your copy. And we'll be talking about the findings today here in just a second. Awesome. We've got we got some Texas, North Carolina, Massachusetts, Colorado, Tennessee. Amazing. South Florida, Idaho, all over the Virginia. Nice. Great. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. We'll go ahead and dive in. That way we have plenty of time for any questions that you all may have. Again, if you missed it, your audio video has been turned off, but we want to hear from you. Throw comments in the chat, throw questions in the Q&A box below, and we'll make sure to get to those by the end of today's session, or at the very least, send a follow-up email to you for any questions you may have. Really grateful to have Brett Neller, our CEO here at LineLeader, on today, as well as Bruce Spurr, the CEO of Grow Your Center, a longtime partner and friend of ours, and childcare marketing expert in general. So thanks, guys, for being here. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Excited to dive in with the expert that is Bruce.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, it's always a good time when we hang out with LineLeader. So,
absolutely. And one quick question we have for everyone as we warm up. I'm just going to leave this on screen as we kick off today. We want to know what company you may be joining us from. So feel free to drop the name of your business in the chat. This is helpful because we will be providing a certificate of attendance today for continuing education credits. So we want to make sure that all of you get credit for being here today and the CDE credits. So I'll leave that up. And Bruce, Brett, feel free to kick us off.
Yeah. Awesome. You want to kick us off and introduce Brett, or do you want me to go?
I know CEO LineLeader. The company's been around since really 2010. We started with a core CRM platform, which is now Enroll, and branched out into the management system and engagement space. There's a lot of, it's really interesting in the market. There's a lot of talk around what's going on, what people are thinking and feeling, what the data shows. And we're seeing that top of funnel is a little bit challenged. There's a lot of reasons behind that. We're going to dive into what's going on or what we're seeing today. And Bruce is going to do an awesome job walking through how you improve the enrollment journey and the nurture journey for getting families seeking care all the way through registration. We're excited to share a lot of the findings from our report and then best practices that Bruce can help you deploy in your organization.
Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. I'm Bruce Spurr, the CEO of Grow Your Center. And I guess we're in our 8th year of business, actually, as Grow Your Center, or I commonly refer to it. Actually, our clients started referring to it as GYC. I guess nobody wanted to use the whole word. So GYC's, we mostly take care of your marketing and a little bit of your recruiting needs. We have done with you and done for you full solutions from website to lead generation, advertising, marketing, with our social, Google, other tertiary platforms. And I'm going to download to you guys a ton of info. So this presentation is light on slides, big on data and ideas. So if you don't have a paper and pen out, I'd highly recommend it, because whenever Brett and I start talking, it's generally a lot of we just data dump on people. So it's probably a good idea to take some notes. All right. Well, should I get started, Brett?
Let's dive in. Let's dive in.
All right. So actually, we got this little slide here. People always ask me what the difference is between Grow Your Center and a company like LineLeader. And LineLeader provides software to help automate, analyze, and improve. And we provide services to help automate, optimize, analyze, and improve.
Yeah.
We basically functionally do the 3 same things.
Yeah, it's interesting. I always look at LineLeader as like the engine, right? And then Bruce, you and your team help are really the fuel for the engine from a lead perspective, and business process improvement perspective. So super complementary, working together. Everybody should have a CRM. Everybody should in this space have a customer journey mapped out, and should have somebody to help you out, like Grow Your Center, if it's not your expertise. At least to get you set up and started. And Bruce does a great job. He knows our platform really well. His team knows our platform extremely well, and they're really complementary when put together. That's the secret sauce.
It is a awesome 1-2 punch combination, having the software. And I agree, every one of you guys should have a CRM. And if you're not unsure exactly what a CRM does, it's where your leads go and they get nurtured with automated emails, text messages, task reminders. It allows you to track everything, how long it takes you to get it respond to a lead. It's got some automations to help you respond quicker. And it's got workflows and all kinds of things. What I love the most about the Enroll platform is it goes well beyond just lead generation. It actually helps you manage registration process, and even into nurturing your parent communication, building email lists, newsletters, reminders. We've built in things in the LineLeader where it reminds you of the onboarding journey for the first 90 days of a new parent and child joining you, and celebrating those milestones, and then their 1-year anniversaries and all that good stuff. So there's so much you can do with a CRM. Most people just scratch the tip of the iceberg, and if that's just you, that's awesome. You're a good start, and if you've gotten deeper into it, even better. But absolutely.
The ultimate goal is to enable technology to allow you to do more with less, right? There's so much going on in your day-to-day in the center operation, that as much as we can automate and have running in the background while you're servicing children and your facility and your staff and your team, that's what we aim to do from a CRM enrollment perspective. We want to allow you to do more with less, and that's where the CRM comes into play. So you can set up everything in the background, have it run, and you won't even know it's running, but your parents and your funnel and the people that are seeking care at your center are being engaged on a continual basis.
I love that. And so that's your first super tip, guys. If you don't have a CRM, go sign up for one. I mean, honestly, if you get nothing else out of this webinar. Yeah, I mean, we're going to present a whole bunch of data and ideas, and we're very data driven. And we're going to use LineLeader's benchmark report, which came out of literally thousands of operators, independent operators, all the way to enterprise clients. Based on literally thousands of locations around the U.S. and maybe even international. Do you guys compile international data, or is it just mostly U.S.?
We do both, but it's primarily U.S. data, I'd say.
Cool. So our goals for our presentation today is to understand the challenges facing the EC industry, And there are quite a few of them, and they're all solvable, which is nice. It just requires kind of a new perspective and shift in thinking. We're going to talk a little bit about what worked in the past and still works today, because you want to throw out babies in bath waters. You know, that old analogy, which is, it sounds really violent when you think about it for a second. Why are we tossing babies, especially in this industry? But I used to use kill two birds with one stone. Somebody pointed out, why are you killing birds? And I'm like, damn, I didn't think of that. What worked, and you may need to change. So what used to work and no longer works or doesn't work as effectively, you may need to either fine tune, adjust, or change. And what new tactics you need to deploy and test out this year in 2025 and moving forward. And finally, how the right software and supporting services can help you accelerate results. So this webinar is brought to you by LineLeader Inquiry Center. And obviously at the end, we're going to tell you a little bit about how we can support and help you. And that'll just be like 30 seconds out of the hour. So don't worry about it. So digging into why leads are hard to get. And I love this picture. It's like a guy pushing a boulder up a hill, and or a lass, or I don't know who the person is, but it's leads are just, there's fewer leads overall in the marketplace. So we see that there's an affordability issue. We're on the cusp of affordability for childcare. If you look at, we mapped out sort of the income trend versus housing costs and inflation relative to the increase in tuition costs from childcare. Now, childcare's increased tuition cost is on a just a regular kind of trajectory, following regular inflation principles, or even lower. But housing costs is kind of hit a bit of an exponential, and when housing costs rises, that's one of the main affordability issues that parents have, and then. I mean, inflation has hit everything. Grocery costs was another big one that hit households tremendously, and it continues. And that started with the pandemic in 2020, and has kind of continued. It's flattened out a little bit, and inflation now moving in 2025 is back down to kind of average levels. It's been for the last 20, 30 years. So the impact moving forward isn't as great, but there is this discrepancy between income and housing costs, which has created choices for people to make whether or not they can afford childcare. And the second one was a birth rate decline over the pandemic, and it was about 4% overall. And so if it started at 2020, it's kind of hitting the 4-year-olds down now. So now the birth rate has stabilized again, and in moving into 2025, we should have same number of kids being born as we had in 2020 from conception in 2019. So things are looking up on both those variables, but right now we're kind of feeling the pinch. The second big piece is a change in buying behavior. What we're noticing with our client base is that the top 20-30% of our clients are getting far more leads than they used to. And we used to get them to the dominant, they be dominant players in the communities, but now they're even more dominant. So where, let's say there was 10 competitors and our clients were like 1 and 2, and they were getting, 30 or 40% of market share, and they're getting like 70 or 80% of the lead flow in the market. And they're getting far more than they used to, and they're kind of fair share for the amount of voice and advertising and marketing they're doing. And we kind of looked at that, and we realized there's a change in the buying behavior, and it's not true for all our clients. So we tried to look at what specifically our clients were doing. So we did kind of this deep meta-analysis of about 70 unique selling propositions that our clients had, and we identified some key factors that made them completely unique, and we're going to tell you what those are today. So kind of keep you on the hook for a little bit. And they make a huge impact on your ability to generate leads. So the changing buying behavior is driven by a younger millennial market, and now the Gen Zs entering the parent. So Gen Zs are now hitting, depending on who you ask what that category is, but they're 26 to 28 years old on the top side. So now they're the younger parents in the marketplace, and they have a very different mentality than even millennials did. So we're seeing online research, mobile phone usage, that swipe left, hyper judgmental generation of looking and making quick assessments as to how you look online and whether or not they even want to become a lead. And we're going to share some data on how that impacts your organization. And they are very much looking for unique solutions and unique components of their childcare needs. So they're very different than the older millennial market and even that mid-millennial market, kind of the 35 to 45-year-old is uniquely different than 25 to 35-year-old today. So kind of the main question that this kind of leads to, if there are all these challenges, what's the answer? The answer is you have to become a top option inside your community. So if you've got 10 competitors and you used to be number 5 out of 10 in terms of like, ranking and lead flow and all that stuff, and you used to get your fair share of leads and things were going good. And now you're finding you're just not getting the same lead flow you used to and doing the same things you used to. Well, that's because your leads have tipped up into the top 2 or 3 people in the market. So the top 2 or 3 are now getting the top, used to be the leads get spread out in top 6 or 7. Now it's the top 2 or 3 that are getting the lion's share. So the spread has gotten tighter and it's become an exponential curve. So the tail has gotten longer and we're just seeing fewer leads being distributed. So then you got to become the top option. And this is really what we're going to talk about today is how do you do that with minimal effort, time, and money spent. Not to say there won't be a necessity for investment. There always is in every business. You always kind of constantly have to reinvent yourself and pivot. Brett, you got anything to add to this piece? Or
I think the macro and like demographics, where you're talking about millennials, Gen Z, by the time 2026 comes, like a majority of families will be Gen Z, right? 80% of the families and parents today are millennials. So it's not just making sure you set it and forget it. You're always going to have to modify and tweak your marketing language and your value proposition as you go. Like what you sold and what you presented to the clientele maybe 5 years ago is not going to resonate with the families that are the Gen Z families that are going to dominate the space in 2026, right? So this isn't like a stale approach. This is a constant thing you should always be looking at and evaluating. And that's, I think we'll talk a little bit about today. It's not, it's a set it, forget it to a certain degree, but it's constantly like evaluating and be dynamic and leveraging resources like Bruce and having a CRM to be able to make you do it quick and fast and stay on top of the competition.
That's exactly it. So from GYC standpoint, Glory Centers, this is kind of the advice we've been giving people since about mid-year last year, and certainly moving heavily into 2025. And the responses to fewer leads is one of 3 or more. It's one or more of these 3 issues. One is you just got to do more. You got to do kind of 5x more marketing you've ever done before. And it's the noise floor has just risen in general. It's hard to get people's attention today more than it's ever been in the history of humanity. There's so much noise out there, especially online, but certainly even offline. There's so many things vying for our attention, and we're an attention-starved economy. Maybe attention-starved is not the right thing. We're attention-saturated economy is probably the better way of doing it. So trying to get and hold people's attention long enough to create a relationship in a transaction is far more difficult. So it's this idea of being omnipresent to also tap into new areas of markets you may not have gone into before. And we're going to give you some examples of what those could look like. The second solution is to review your program structures. And this is where those tips, looking at the unique selling propositions of our top performing clients, there was a huge, heavy correlation towards experiences and convenience. So clients that offered experiences were our top 2 were 77% more likely to offer something uniquely experiential in their programming, and or convenience factors. And we'll give you some examples of those as we go. The second component of that is Dang, I lost my train of thought. Oh, well, so reviewing your program structures and offering more convenience and oh yeah, sorry. So 77% of our top rated. Now the bottom 20% were more interesting. Only 3% of them had experiences and convenience factors represented in their unique selling propositions. So it was a very heavy correlation towards success, and it totally makes sense. And number three, we have this kind of leave no lead behind mentality, and kind of stole that from the education space of leave no child behind. But every leads are just more expensive to get. Like the cost of advertising has also gone up and scaled exponentially. Through the pandemic, everything moved online. The cost of advertising just skyrocketed, and it's just more expensive than it's ever been to get through that attention barrier. You just got to advertise more. So you go back to number one, you got to do 5x more, which costs you more. Now, do you have to pay 5x more? No, there's ways around that. But that means all the leads that come in, there's the LineLeader benchmark report is going to show you some really compelling statistics on why you want to maximize your lead flow and take advantage of every opportunity, and how specifically to do that.
Yeah, I think if you look at the lifetime value of a family or a child, right? And you're like, wow, should I invest in marketing resources? Should I invest? How much? If you think of a family, a Gen Z family that's starting out with one child and they need care, the lifetime value of that family over a 5-year period before they age out is like 6 figures, right? So that one lead, oh, maybe you spent who knows how much on it, $5,000, but if you get $100,000 in return on that lead, it's going to pay dividends long term. So you got to be strategic on where you allocate your resources, right? Marketing is not something you should not allocate them towards. The question is how much, and in what channels are the most kind of highest ROI channels, which Bruce and the platform can help you kind of analyze. But it's yeah, that those leads, although they're becoming more expensive, the value of that family lifetime, especially if you get another child and then you start them you retain them and they're growing their family with your business. It's unmatched from an ROI perspective.
I love that. And that's one of the biggest benefits of the childcare industry and being in childcare is the lifetime value of a customer. It's quite different if you're marketing a restaurant or, a retail shop, where they can, they might look at somebody frequenting that restaurant maybe 5 times a year, and the total value of that customer is maybe $500 a year. Where when you have a 6-figure opportunity sitting there, the investment kind of pays off really quickly. So we look at it when we look at cost of advertising and marketing, we look at it as how many kids you have to enroll to start breaking even, and it's usually not that many. Usually like 2 or 3 enrollments ends up paying for your marketing costs for the next 29 months, which is the average tenure of a child in a care center.
And it doesn't feel great always talking about dollars when it's relative to children and taking care of them. There's a lot of people in the space, including yourself, like you get into it because you have a passion for developing kids. But we always say, and a lot of people saying like no money, no mission, right? You have to maximize. You have to provide great service. You have to deliver help with the development milestones with the child that comes into your care. But at the same time, you do have to think about the investment in your business and the ROI to a certain degree, so that you can continue to do what you love to do and for the reasons that you got into the space in the first place.
I love that phrase, no money, no mission. And it's true. I would try and take the feeling of you still got to apply business principles, because it is a business at the end of the day. Any operation, even not. I used to work with nonprofits in my first agency before Grow Your Center from 1999, if you can believe that, Brett, through to 2014. A third of my clients were nonprofit in the nonprofit space. And that was it. The ones that were successful treated the raising of funds as a business process. And the ones that did were quite successful and could have a much bigger impact and mission. And they measured their outcome by, by how much of an impact they made in the world. But at the end of the day, without the dollars, they didn't have the ability to actually make an impact in the world. So, so we use the language of business, but we still have the mission of care.
Yeah, 100%.
So let's just review real quick what an enrollment funnel looks like, and we'll kind of break it down into pieces and present to you guys some data and start offering you guys some real golden nuggets here. So the first component of the enrollment funnel is on the top side, which is finding parents. Find parents who are a prospective parent who has a child of the age of a program that fits a program that you have, whether it's 6 to 12 for a before after school program, summer camp, etc., or 0 to 5 or 0 to 4 for your preschool and infant through toddler and preschool programs. Once you find the parents, you get their attention. You want to get their lead information into your CRM specifically, but you want to capture it in some mechanism. You want to get an email or a phone number and a name to try and follow up with somebody. And then at that point, it's a sales process. So the first part we call kind of a marketing process, and the second part is a sales process. So the marketing, advertising is to get attention and get the lead, and then there's a sales process of trying to get them to enroll. And then that gets broken down into 3 steps. First, get them to book a tour, then get them to show up on a tour and complete that tour, and the third is to get them to register and enroll. So when we look at that in marketing, there's this formula called AIDA, A-I-D-A. It's an acronym, and it stands for attention, interest, desire, and action. It's a very classic. It's been around, 40, 50 years, but as fundamentals of all marketing goes back to this simple concept of getting attention, creating interest, developing desire, and getting the customer or prospective customer to take an action. Now, finding parents is where you're looking to get attention. Getting the lead is where you generate the interest. And you generally do that. You get attention on other platforms. You're advertising on Google, social media, billboards, signage, radio ads, whatever it's looking like. You're out there buying attention or looking organically, trying to find it and get attention, whether somebody's walking by a poster, a flyer in a coffee shop, or an online ad while they're scrolling Instagram. Then there's an action you want them to take on that ad, and then it goes somewhere. Generally, your website is where you develop the interest. So ads have this much information, your website has this much information, and the goal of the website is to generate and turn them into a lead, for them to give up their contact information, so that way they become a lead and you can contact them. After that, you build desire. That's specifically, you start getting them to kind of build a relationship and rapport on the tour, and then you want to get them to take an action, which is getting them to enroll. Now, the book a tour is really interesting. Now, all of these mechanisms, there's like a little micro version of AIDA within this, but once you got the lead, getting them to book a tour, there's this like mini version of AIDA where they've kind of taken a singular action now to click, 2 actions already. They've clicked from the ad to your website, and then from the website, they've actually filled out a form. So there's a second action. Now, the third one is they've got to book that tour. And there's like a mini, sometimes there's a mini AIDA involved in that. If you don't get the tour booking right away, right after the lead form gets filled, you're going to need to call them, talk to them, email them, text them, and you're going to need to generate, get their attention again, generate interest, build a little bit of desire, and get them to take the action of booking the tour. So there's like this mini AIDA that happens at each one of these steps. And I'm just kind of highlighting it on the book a tour because it's hyper obvious there, because you end up with leads in your system where people don't book a tour, and your goal is to get them to do that. And then, obviously there's another mini version of AIDA to get them to show up to the tour, and then obviously another mini version to get them to enroll. So you're always trying to get somebody's attention, generate interest in what you have to offer, building that desire up so they take an action, and then simplifying the methodology for taking action. So do you have anything you want to add to this one, Brett?
I think it's super logical. It feels super logical, right? But if this is this is the digital journey. There's no like in-person engagement in the enrollment funnel necessarily until you hit the tour aspect. of this journey, and I think that's where you gotta make sure that the digital journey matches the physical journey when you get the tour. If it's like if your website's super polished and you have a really good offering and they're engaged and then you fall flat on the tour, there's a disconnect, right? And it's a turn off. So I think all these pieces working together, that's hard to do and hard to execute without a CRM and without understanding and mapping out your customer, your family journey. So I think it all seems very logical. It's not always easy to execute. You got to simplify as much as possible. You got to have the call to action to the parents to be able to book the tour on your website. Remove as much friction as possible to get the family to come into the front to the door in your doors. So then you can shine
100%.
your services and the amazing people and talent that you have on staff.
I think one of my favorite things I always ask people, I'm like, look, if people showed up, if they showed up at your door, what's your chances of closing them and getting enrollment? And they always say really high, because once people come in the door, they really start falling in love with the place. So, and I absolutely love that. So let's look at the first part of this, which is find parents and getting the lead. And we're going to show you guys some data out of the benchmark report, which is this, the Early Childhood Education Benchmark Report. I think Sarah linked it in the chat. I'm sure she will again. There it is again. So we're going to be going through some of the key pages, but guys, if I were you, I would download this and read it. I have it here, and look, I got it. I got mine spiral bound at Office Max, and then I've dog-eared and note-taked, and I'm every single one of these pages. So this is an incredible, robust source of intelligence and ideas.
Yeah, and it's an evolution, right? So this report we started back in 2010. If you look at the 2010 report, you'd be like, this is not very good. And we've evolved and honed in our data analytics and also our internal process to be able to offer you this data. This is good benchmark data. This doesn't mean if you're in every center and every organization is a little bit different. Everybody's capacity is a little bit different. But there's really, really good data to understand maybe where you can find areas to improve and execute better on the enrollment enrollment operation journey. This particular one's in page 11. It talks about like that quarterly average leads by location year over year. And this is what we're seeing, right? Top of funnel. When we say top of funnel, leads in general, family seeking care have dropped. They've dropped for consecutive quarters year over year. And that doesn't mean that there's maybe less demand in the space. That doesn't mean that there's not families. There's maybe some of that, but in general, there's definitely a supply and demand thing here where there's more competition out there. So if you're getting fewer leads top of funnel, like you have fewer inbound items where families are like, I want to see if your center is a fit for my family. Every step along that journey becomes increasingly more critical. So the conversion from lead to registration or tour to tour schedule or tour completed to registration, like you have to execute at every stage better than you've probably executed ever before. And you got to have the differentiators that Bruce said, because there's care, there's a standard of care, everybody wants to be safe. There's a curriculum you got to have, but like, what are the real differentiators that are going to get your families that you get in the front door to register? Because you're going to be maybe a little bit challenged with more supply in the market and fewer leads in general to go execute against.
So what I love everything Brett just said there. So I 100% agree with all of that. And I will add that what's interesting about this slide is the word average. So this is average across of like thousands of locations. Now, when we looked at our GYC data, as I was trying to say at the beginning, which is the top 20% started getting more leads. So you want to be in that top dog because these don't apply to them. The average kind of got spread out a little bit, and the average has gone down, but that's because the top ones are getting far more. So as Brett pointed out, there may not be that many fewer leads in the market, but there's just more, and there may be more supply in the market, so more competition. But it's also the ones that there's centers out there in your area. They're up, and you may be one of them. They're like have 100, child wait list, where the other 9 centers are competing are at 70, 65, 70% of their capacity, going like, what's different between them, that one, and the other 9? And that's the key to this whole thing. So
Yeah.
exactly what is different between them and you?
Yeah. What are the outperformers and best in class doing that maybe you're not doing, that are allowing them to exceed these average numbers, right? And there's a lot that can go into that. And it's really like, where you focus your efforts, because if you're not focusing your efforts on enrollment or in the funnel and getting demand into your center or the leads into your center, you're going to be impacted 2-3 years down the road. So your investment today is a long-term strategy for making sure your center is really, really healthy 2 to 3 years from now.
100%. Let's see, there we go. So, how do you get more leads? So that's, the slide was like, lead flow is down. How do you get more leads? I'm not sure if these bullets are actually appearing in order, but we'll just talk about them as they pop up. The first thing is what I call tip of the spear. So when there's a very noisy environment, you have to have, if you try and advertise like everything that you do and how great you are in 10 different things, you're basically just adding to the noise. It's really hard to hear 10 more voices among thousands. So, but if you tighten that up into one thing, we call that kind of penetrating into people's minds, a singular idea. And if you can be known for that singular idea, then you'll attract attention. So, well, 2 things. 1, you have to have the singular idea, and 2, it has to resonate to the market and be unique. So there's kind of 3 elements of it. 1, you have to advertise kind of one thing and penetrate into the minds of your prospects so that you rise above all the noise that everybody else is making. And then the second component is it has to be unique. So it has to be something that they're not hearing what everyone else is doing. And then the third component is it has to be of interest to them. So it has to be something that's compelling, that they're like, stop and go, wait a minute. And I like the analogy of this is just that scroll. Every single one of us on this call has probably scrolled social media and done the death scroll of like, the thumb moving down the scrolling page. So what makes you stop and look at a specific post? Because you probably scroll through 5 before you stop at 1 and watch that video, read that thing, do the carousel, whatever it is that you do, or engage with it in some way, share it, link to it, copy it, etc. So what is it that's stopping the scroll that you're doing that's unique? Now, one of those things may be something you may need to add and or modify to your program. So the idea of quality care, socialization, kindergarten preparedness, kind of educational pieces you add to the standard things that go into most ECE programs. When we started GYC back in 2018, all I had to do was take one of those 4 things and just start advertising it. There were very few childcare centers advertising at the time. There was maybe 1 or 2 big brands in any given area we were competing against. And advertising a childcare center was kind of unique on most of the social platforms, on Google and YouTube and things like that. So once we just started a little bit of advertising and took one of those 4 elements, it attracted parents' attention. And it got enough attention to fill up those centers. As the years have gone by, we're in 2025 now. The competition on the advertising space, specific to childcare, much less everything else, has gotten far more competitive. Almost every market, we're seeing dozens of different ads from maybe 5 to 8 locations at any given a kind of community. And so we're competing against far more. So just advertising our the ads started looking like everybody else's. So we had to kind of pin down the key thing that's differentiating. And the stuff that used to work is no longer working anymore. So you really have to dial down to one thing.
Bruce,
yeah, go ahead, Brett.
There's a good question out there around Google's artificial intelligence on the search engine ranking position. So
Yeah.
do you have any context on that? Have you seen how that maybe impacts, I don't know, Gen Z searching? Are they going into Gemini and asking questions, or Chat GPT? Like, any thoughts on that? I don't know if you've come across that and how that impacts.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, first of all the things that help you rank organically, or used to help you rank organically in search before, a lot of those tactics are still viable today. In how Google is responding via AI. So they're basically a couple things about AI. First of all, AI is not creating it's not kind of creating knowledge. It's actually leveraging mostly Google to the data out there and compiling it again. So you just got to think of AI as like all the AI platforms, not just Google's, but as pulling data that exists already in the world. So if you're adding to the data of the world, you're automatically being included in that amalgamation of data. Second is that AI is being heavily criticized for citations and references for where that data is coming from. So you got to think of Google search results as every search result option is basically a built-in citation or reference because it goes to that original source. So now if you're looking at that, you're starting to notice that AI will start citing where it's generating its information from. And that trend will likely continue. So you want to be that citation or reference, which is basically the same thing as being a search result. The third component of it is that this is affecting local businesses less than it is affecting more national, bigger brands and larger questions. So the main generation of SEO traffic is coming from the maps listing. So about 70 to 75% of organic traffic comes from being in the top 3 placements on Google Maps or Apple Maps, or I think Microsoft has its own version of Bing as well. And and those rankings tend to be driven by some of the SEO practices, best practices that you're likely employing already. So my answer to that is the things you're doing for SEO, most of that is likely driving, it's going to help you as AI kind of summarizes data, cites the references, you'll become one of those citations. And it'll become one of more than one citation. And Maps is still kind of a dominant platform for that. And the ranking there still matters a lot. As that evolves, who knows? Like, honestly, we call that a fog of war. You're at night with a flashlight walking through the darkness. You can only illuminate the path so far in the distance before your flashlight no longer shows you what's going on. So what we can see right now from where AI is and how it's impacting search results, it doesn't seem to be changing some of the tactics that we're using on SEO. Actually, some of the things that we used to do are actually supporting are positively being impacted by AI summaries.
Yeah, so you're basically saying you got to still continue to do the elevate,
Correct.
figure out how to do page ranking. Still have to do search engine optimization because those results are going to end up flowing into any AI kind of chatbot or tooling, anyways, right? They're complementary.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. That's exactly right, Brett. That's a great summary. Thank you.
Cool.
In terms of modification of program, as I mentioned earlier, it's about experiences and convenience. So here's where I'm going to download some specific ideas to you guys, what an experience looks like. So a lot of you guys can check mark this and or look into it if you don't have them in your programs. But some of the experiences that people have are think about things that a center can do that parents would have a harder time doing on their own or finding externally, that their child can experience there. So preschool age groups like 3s and 4s participating in like a play or kind of a musical band, or it's less about like having those elements in as individual pieces, which a lot of you guys have, but creating a feature. So a lot of you guys do kind of plays at the holiday time or for graduation and things like that. Think of little micro pieces of that more frequently. Parents seem to really gravitate to those pieces and really like those and advertising those. We have clients that have little bands, like one of them even has a little marching band, like if you can believe that, a bunch of 3 and 4-year-olds, walking around, musical instruments, making a ruckus, but it's so adorable. And if you can get them doing simple things, beating a drum, playing a note to they can actually sound like a reasonable melody, and it creates, a cacophony to kind of something that is not as disorienting. It can create an awesome little video. You use that, you post that, turn that into an ad, leverage that. All of a sudden, it drives interest. We have others who have a little kind of a nature play area in their yards, and they had a little tree come down, and they had all these branches. When the teachers went out and started building things with the branches and showing kids how to construct a little lean-to and things like that, they posted that video, and all of a sudden they had 3 enrollments walk in the door within the week, all because of that one video, which was then got advertised. And it was because they love the idea of taking something that looked like garbage, trash, that we're going to take this fallen branches out and turn it into something that was interesting. They're talking about structural mechanics and engineering principles, and we're talking like 2, 3, 4-year-olds all doing this stuff in a fun way. Experiences can also look like bringing in-house field trips or external field trips. External are much more difficult to do at that age, but internal field trips are really always interesting, and bringing experts in the area. We have who come and showcase something. We have some folks out in Huntsville, Alabama, a center that brings in a NASA engineer and talks about space and rockets and things like that. And they come in fairly frequently, and they have these series, like almost every 2 weeks. They have somebody coming in for a couple hours, talking to the kids and experimenting and doing stuff. And they capture that in video, post it, and that's what turns into advertising. And that's what we call tip of the sphere. It's something that's so uniquely done, it attracts the attention of all the people in that community. The convenience is really interesting. Now, convenience and price are the 2 main drivers of childcare decisions. So if we have to be bluntly honest, it's like 60, 70, maybe even 80% of the decision making is driven by convenience and price. So convenience could look like, which side of the street you're on between, where people live and where people work. If they have to turn left going from home to work, it's going to add another 10 minutes of left-hand turn to the lights for them to drop off in the morning. And on the right, it's a little bit easier. Now, that's a decision you got to make on your next location. But so how do you drive convenience if you're slightly inconvenienced, or another person opened up across the street and they're a little bit more convenient? Some really fun things that clients have done is opened up coffee bars. And we had one client that hires a barista in the mornings to make specialized coffees, like the full Starbucks experience of, almond milk, half fat, low sweet, caramel lattes. And they know what every parent's order is. And as they come in the morning, they have curbside pickup. So they go out to the morning, they text, they're in the line, they come out, they grab the child from the car seat, and they hand out coffee to the parents. And I gotta say, those parents will pay an extra couple $100 a month for a convenience factor of getting their favorite coffee and curbside, which gets them in and out way faster.
It's all their friends and other parents of their kids. They'll be like, "Hey, I get coffee at mine." So
I mean, honestly, and it's like, and you just like, the coffee cups are cheap, but the sleeves, they get customized with their logos. And and they're so when they go to work and they put that coffee down and they're walking around with it, and they go to their meetings in the morning or whatever, you've got a coffee sleeve with your logo on it. Where'd you get that? Like, you wouldn't believe it. LineLeader's childcare center out in Dallas has has a coffee bar when I drop off my kid. That's the kind of stuff that is tip of the sphere advertising.
Yeah, it's great. Super
So,
creative stuff. It's the differentiator that sets you
yeah,
apart in the space.
absolutely. So I mean, there's a lot of other convenience. We have clients who have laundry services. People drop out bags of laundry. They partner up with a dry cleaner, and they come in and pick the stuff up, and they just pick it up and drop it off at the center, once a week, or once every 2 weeks or so. So it depends on the space you have. There's a logistical factor to it, and there's some creativity to it. We have meal programs. People get handout dinners. They partnered up with some restaurants that like literally next door, and they have the meal prep available there, and they hand over once a week or twice a week. People sign up, and a lot of these things you can build into your costs could be add-ons, and so you don't have to pay for them directly, but you can. But they're just offering of convenience factors. So whatever you can do, change it's change the game. So just think about it and look around. I knew this was in the wrong order. So you need to be exceptional at one thing to get attention. So that's kind of the summary of this whole slide. That's how you guys get more leads. Oh, and well, here's a second one. Reviews matter more than they've ever mattered before. Guys, if you don't have at least 40 reviews and a 4.5 star rating or higher, you got to work on getting reviews. Like hell or high water, you got to stand at the door. You got to have that review QR code right there. Parents scan it with their phone and leave a review right there. Don't let them go home. You can do the whole email texting thing, and that helps, but you got to be creative in how you're generating and getting consistent reviews, because it used to be that parents used reviews to make a final decision as to which center they would choose. Today, they use reviews to decide which centers are going to tour even before they become a lead.
100%. Give them a $5 Starbucks card and make them fill it out on the spot.
And if you're wondering which one of those things you need to do, test it with social ads. That's the best way to do it. You test out the option, you see which one gets more clicks and generates more leads. I mean, it's simple. It's hard to do, but simple in concept. So if we've talked about the first part of getting leads, this is the second part of how to get them to enroll once you got the lead. So this is the benchmark report. On what page is this on? Do you guys know, Sarah?
This is lead to register. This is page 22 in the report. So I would check it out. It's again, if everything stays equal, from a conversion perspective, if you have lower top of funnel, lower leads coming in, even if you're converting flat or so you're the math is going to compute to lower registrations, lower enrollment. So what Bruce is saying, to drive to become best of class, those differentiators, those special things, those things that you're one really, really exceptional item you're exceptional at. That's key to getting more top of funnel, because as what we're seeing in the space is the conversion stats from one part of the journey to the next is relatively flat. So top of funnel and driving more demand is going to be the key here.
So what I love about this slide is this is lead all the way to registered, and there's no change in kind of the larger enterprise customers have 26 or more locations. A positive change in the mid-market there from 3 to 25 locations, but a negative change. And that 4%, guys, doesn't sound like a lot, but that means you need about 30% more leads to make up for the 4%. It's about a 5-to-1 ratio, about 20 to 30%. So if to make up a 1% difference means far more leads up front to make up for that throughout your funnel. So that's like a lead to tour, show up for the tour, and then registered. So it's a big deal that it drops by 1%. It means you just got to do far more work up front and far more cost to make up the leads ahead of time. And I think the concept here is leave no lead behind, and I think that's where the enterprise does well and that mid-market does well. Is that they generally have tighter processes around their what they do, how quickly they communicate with a customer, getting them to book a tour and then getting them to execute a tour in a more consistent way. So this is where you guys can pick up as independents. I don't know how many people are here from an enterprise level, from an independent level, but I think you can improve those stats dramatically. Actually, one of the things I wanted to say is that if you can go, like the best stat here is 22%. I think you can get up, everybody could get up to 30, 35%. And some of our best clients are around the 35 to 40% range. Like they literally leave no lead behind. And I'll tell you exactly how they do it. So first of all, they don't settle for average in any part of the funnel. So they look at every single component, and the moment somebody walks in the door, they hand them the bottle of water, they greet them, they kneel down and greet the child if the child is with them. There's no like handing of a ton of paperwork and administrator stuff up front. They build rapport. They do the paperwork either throughout or at the end after they've established a relationship. There's no waiting. There's, when they walk in, the place smells great, looks great, is clean. There's somebody there to greet them. They've got the name on a placard. Like they go way above and beyond on every step of the way. It's fully optimized. If it's there with an infant, and they're just showing them all the infant tour stops, and they're speaking about things that are relative to them. They're asking them lots of questions. There's just they're not just kind of giving a speech that they've done 100 times. It's unique to the customer. They're getting the customer, the prospective parent, to talk more about their needs at every step. Ask questions along the way, not just save them for the end. There's all these little details that happen, but the critical thing is never to settle for average. And if you don't settle for average in any part of your funnel, you won't have any bottlenecks. So you got to look at every single piece of it. So, and that could look like, what can you automate? That's where your CRM comes in. How can you automate them booking their own sales call? Sorry, not sales call, tour scheduling their own tour. Like I can't tell you how many people don't do that and still do the back and forth of like, what time are you available? What time are you available? That spot's not available anymore, and back and forth by either on the phone or by email, etc. Nobody wants to do that. You just want to click on a calendar, book a tour. You got to get that process if you don't have it already.
It's like the core feature that we have part of the CRM. If nobody's using it, we're beating on the desk until they put this tour scheduling form on their calendar, because it reduces friction, it reduces the time on your phone. It's the easiest way to get them in the door without having to even talk to them.
100%. So what can you do better, faster? What can you add or remove? And how can you create a wow parent experience? So we can spend all day talking about those pieces. So lead to tour book. Now we're breaking down the funnel a little bit. So we went for the full funnel, lead to registered. Now we're going to just go, how do you get the lead to book a tour? So the data here shows us kind of very little change or a positive change. So people are fairly consistent in, as long as the leads come in, they're booking tours.
Yeah, and then this is where you got to remove the friction as much as possible. You got to have a scheduling mechanism on your website. That's the easiest way to do it. Right here, step one.
Right there. Tip number one. If you're not doing that, take nothing else away from this webinar. Please go install that in your systems. The second one, which is huge, which is also in the benchmark report, which is call leads within 5 minutes. Guys, if somebody hasn't booked a tour yet with you, even if they have, I'd call them anyway. But if they haven't booked a tour and a lead comes in, if you can call them within 5 minutes of them sending that lead information in, your chance of them enrolling goes up exponentially. Like you got a 50-80% chance of securing a tour and getting them to enroll, register. Guys, if you wait just 1 hour, that drops in half. If you wait 3 hours, it drops in half again. And if you wait more than 3 hours, you're almost done, because 3 other centers have already booked them in, and and that's it. And you've basically lost. So if it's we have clients right now, it's taking an average of a day to get in touch with people. And I'm like, look, you've got the leads, you're just not working them. You're leaving leads on the table, and you can't do that. Get it within 5 minutes, and you will see your results just increase exponentially.
Yeah, the one thing too, and if it's after hours, right, you can have automation set up to where a family is inquiring that they get a text right away with a link to this tour scheduling mechanism, right? That they can
Love
do.
that.
So it's if you don't have, it doesn't have to be. It's different, right? If they're in the middle of the day and you get an inquiry, yeah, call them if you can. You can also set up automation to where it fires them the self-schedule tour mechanism right out the gate, so that you can reserve their spot in their day, because sometimes parents are looking between 7 and 9 o'clock at night, and they're carving out a specific hour to do this exercise. And if you can't execute and get them in booked in the door within that hour, you're going to miss out.
100%. Now, if they're not responding, they haven't booked anything, or if they have, and this is also true for after they've toured, they haven't quite registered yet. This is kind of the standard of our top performing clients and how they absolutely crush it. They call 3 times a day for 5 days straight. They don't give up. So people ask me, how many times should I call if somebody doesn't pick up? Just keep calling. It's like relentlessness pays off. Email and text twice a day. Restart that ADF formula to get the tour booked, or get the registration. This applies for that at the end as well. If they walk out the door, they've toured and they haven't signed the papers yet, this applies to it too. Same formula. And then finally, you can use automation and text messages to be aggressive within the first 3 or 4 days. That's if it once you pass the 5 day threshold, they've likely made a decision already, and you're looking to capture them on the back end if they don't like the center that they finally chose. So that's it. Or they haven't decided to do something else, or delay their decision. So you just want to be as aggressive as possible, especially in the first 3 to 4 days. But if you continue within 5 days, you're doing really well. So now tour booked to show up. So now they booked a tour. How do we get them to show up? There's been no change really in the data there, kind of minor tweaks in it. So it looks like it's pretty consistent in terms of show up rates, about 75% or so.
Yep. Yeah, not much change there. You want to make sure you get them to come in the door, though. That's where those differentiators are super special, to make sure they do show up.
Absolutely. This is where you can automate. You can automate to reminders. So, like, I mean, at minimum, you send them a calendar invite when you book through the LineLeader enroll system. Sends up a calendar invite, a text message, the day before, the morning of, an hour before, with the address of your location. So it's easy. It just clicks. It goes to a Google map. Opens up a Google map for them automatically. Like, that's the convenience factor of working with you guys, and it just keeps reminding them an opportunity to reschedule if they don't think they can make it. You want to send them the same frequency by email as well. So if I'm booking a tour for tomorrow at 5 p.m., I've already by the time 4:15 tomorrow rolls around, I've already gotten 6 or 7 communications from you about this tour. And I promise you, nobody's ever complained about being reminded of something in this busy, busy world. Second thing you can do in those in those logistics and those reminders is build up some excitement. Like, be fun, unique. You guys are childcare centers, like like be interesting. Use memes, pictures, emoticons. I love sending out to just people who book GYC calls. We're trying to get to the point where we're creating reports to showcase. We do our kind of background research into your community or competition, et cetera. And we're trying to basically take screenshots of our work in progress, our draft, sending it to a prospect that's never, has just booked a call with us to show up on our sales call to say, hey, their name is on the Word doc, and we're working on this for you. So show up. People at childcare centers put their names up on a board, take a picture, a little selfie of the person who does the tour, your enrollment specialist, your director, assistant director, whoever it is, your admin person, and sends that to a prospect. It will improve your show up rate dramatically. Our best clients have a 95% show up rate. So 75% is average. What does that mean? There's people at 50%, there's people at 95%. You want to be the one at 95%. And I promise you, it'll have a dramatic impact on your bottom line.
Yeah.
If you really want to push it hard, send them a video, a customized video, and say, Hey, Brett, I just saw you're booked in for a tour tomorrow. Can't wait to see you. We're really excited to meet you and your 2-year-old. We're ready to show you around. Your tour, by the way, your tour is at like 2 o'clock. Let us know if you need to reschedule. We'll send you a link or a bunch of reminders. That will dramatically improve your show up rate and your engagement, and people will show up excited.
Yeah, tour completed to registered. Again, pretty flat. This is where we see best in class, like really truly outperform the competition, right? That tour, Bruce was talking about, hand them a bottle of water when they walk in. The ones that do really well have it mapped out. They have the talk track. They've coached their team, because it is a sales process. It's a little bit of a sales process. And they have it relatively scripted. At least they know what value items to hit on during the tour. So the better you can train your team, the better you can have. Like, we have a tour kiosk feature that we offer, that allows you as an owner or the director to outline all the value props that you want to make sure that the person executing the tour hits on as they walk the family throughout the center. And it's highlighting those things that are really, really unique, and making sure that the center director or those that are giving the tour aren't forgetting to mention those things. So the tour is where people separate themselves. And it's about high quality, it's about unique value prop, and it's about consistency. And if you can do all those things and elevate that tour experience, you're going to be best in class.
Absolutely. I absolutely love that. So this is the data on tour to registered. So as Brett was saying, if you can elevate that tour experience, you are, they're in the door. This is your opportunity to have them sign the registration papers before they walk out. So how do you get more tours to register? Let me just pull all these up. So basically, you must creating a structured process in your business and set high standards. You want to create an exceptional parent experience from the moment they pull up to the building. So we have some clients who are like, our building's kind of rough on the outside, but it's like a diamond, on the inside. And I'm like, great, make a banner sign saying that. That's the ad. We'll showcase the building on the outside going, would you ever send your child here? How about this? And then show them the interior. So sometimes, don't judge a book by its cover, those kinds of things. If you have a beautiful building, awesome, showcase that. Just make it an exceptional parent experience from the moment. Think about all the different elements in your tour, the visuals, the smell, like you walk in, baked cookies, it's my favorite smell in the world, like whose isn't? And but make sure that the place feels good. The greeting, the hospitality, the bottle of water, etc., the paperwork, the tour stops, objection handling, and then closing the opportunity. So objection handling, closing the opportunity, those are sales things. Those are sales tools. All great salespeople are trained that way. And we talked about at the beginning of this about, money and mission, and using the language of business to try to improve our operations, to build, to make a greater impact in your communities, and to care for more. So this, objection handling and closing are business terms used in sales, but don't let that, scare you away from it. At the end of the day, this is a sales process, and you want to be the one to care for that child because you have the best and a great quality program in your area. So if you're proud of that, then learn the skills and teach them to your team, whoever's responsible for these pieces, and learn how to handle objections. I got, 99% of the GYC clients that come in, they can't handle basic price question. Why are you guys the most expensive? Or why are you guys, one of the most expensive? And they just don't have a good response to that, a good value proposition of what is being offered, a way to express value related to price. Because at the end of the day, convenience and price are the big motivating factors, but people are willing to pay more for more. And they just need to understand what's the difference. So when there's an objection, it's generally an opportunity for you guys to really explain and showcase the value that you're offering. And then finally, as they say, fortune's in the follow-up. You want to leverage those automations as much as possible. The default state of most CRMs that come out of the box, 5x that, 10x that, 20x that. Don't be afraid of doing more. And if you start getting people complaining, great. You're probably also getting a lot of people showing up. You want to keep pressing until you get a lot of complaints. One or two is not enough to stop, the communication, and just being more communicative and getting people's attention and getting people in the door, and then making sure they register if it's a great fit for you and a great fit for them. So I invite you guys to book a call with LineLeader. Why, Brett?
I mean, I think a lot of this stuff, there's a lot of tactics out there, and there's a lot of things you can do, and it feels overwhelming and daunting. But a lot of that stuff we can help you automate, right? We can help you map out. Bruce can help you map out the customer journey and apply automation to a lot of those things. So it may feel like a lot of touch points. It may feel like a lot of things to do. The purpose of our enrollment operations platform is to allow you to do more with less, right? You may not have the staff to do all these things, but let the system do it for you. Like, we want to help you fill up your center and grow your operation and grow your company. And that's where we excel. And we're going to provide you the analytics around where you're winning and where you're losing and where you need to improve, and help you use your resources and allocate your dollars in the best way possible. Bruce, like I said, it's a very complementary business to the LineLeader platform, and working in conjunction together. I think it's a very special secret sauce that's going to put you over the edge and best in class.
I 100% agree. And guys, I invite you to book a call with Grow Your Center as well. The reason you do that is pretty much the same. We'll help you analyze your sales funnel, look at how much marketing you're going to need to get attention that you guys very well deserve, since you go through all the effort of creating exceptional, amazing childcare programs. And we'll develop kind of what we call a roadmap, how to get you from where you are to where you want to be, and get those. If leads have felt like they've died down, we'll help you get them back, and maybe even get you more leads than you've ever had in the history of your organization.
Awesome.
That's it, guys. This is a wrap. I think did we go a little over time? I'm so sorry, Sierra. This is my fault. Don't blame Brett.
We went a little bit over. We appreciate everyone hanging in there with us. We will get a certificate of attendance out to everybody. Really appreciate you joining us. Hopefully you downloaded the benchmark report. I know a lot of great data was shared, and tips and tricks. And so we will make sure you get a copy of the recording, your certificate of attendance, and another link to download the report. You will also receive a survey as soon as this webinar ends, and also in your email, asking if you'd like any additional information and asking how we can help support you in your business. So please fill that out. Even if you just want a copy of the report, we'd love to hear that so we can make sure you get that. But otherwise, yeah, please feel free to reach out to Bruce and Grow Your Center. A lot of our customers utilize Grow Your Center to help bolster their marketing efforts and build custom templates and workflows to help nurture their leads throughout that pre-enrollment journey. So thank you so much for Bruce for joining us.
Yeah, thanks,
thank you
Bruce,
guys very much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brett.
Amazing. Have a great one, everybody.
Bye.